A little bit of tank brain going on, a little bit of support brain maybe. You're trying to play around your team when your team is not doing you any favors. All these like slight positional errors mean that it's limiting our reach slowly and slowly, to the point where we have no more options. So yeah, this is a platinum level game, playing DPS. You've mentioned you're feeling a bit stuck on platinum on all 3 roles. So I'm looking to
Yeah,
see how we
so
can be more of a difference maker, I guess.
yeah, I'm on plat, like low plat for support and tank.
Hmm.
I only placed DPS last season, and I was in plat, but then replaced this season like mid gold.
Okay,
Then got to high gold last night and dropped a little bit again. So, but I think I'm a low plat player, just
gotcha.
struggling a little bit in these gold lobbies.
All right, gotcha. So yeah, let's see it how we can be a little bit more effective. If there's any questions that come up during the session, feel free to just bring them up, interrupt me if you need to. But I'll be just watching through and sort of pointing out things I see to start.
Cool. I will say, like, don't hold back. Like, I'm
Yeah, gotcha. No worries.
okay with anything.
Is McCree sort of like a comfort pick? He's a very strong hero right now, so definitely a good
Yeah,
hero to be playing.
yeah. I usually play him or Tracer.
Okay.
Tried Hanzo, but I feel like I can hit my shots once in a while. Like one game I'm popping off, other games I hit 0 shots. So.
All right, pretty straightforward so far. Nice little flash.
My ultimate is charging.
So why did we back up here? As you can see, obviously
So
your team has a different idea.
yeah, the feeling here is that my team is pushing in hard, and I'm expecting the entirety of their team to be backing up. So
Trying
it
to hit
feels like
them
if
on
I
their way
can,
out.
yeah, if I can get the supports on their way out, I can probably get some value there. Although I think that might be my downfall later in this game, where my tanks might just need more support.
So yeah, as a hero like McCree, it's interesting. How did these Symmetra turrets get here?
Oh yeah, this
Um,
is a whole thing. It's so weird.
oh, okay, she's over here. Sure. Ignoring that for a second. As a hero like McCree, the time it will take you to like sort of move from here and then be effective on this choke is maybe less valuable than just maintaining your uptime when you are with the team. So, a general rule, and this might be a bit of a mindset from your tracer play, is McCree likes short flanks because he's got little stubby legs. He can't run around like Soldier. He doesn't have any movement abilities like Tracer. The time it takes for him to reposition is like, it takes him a lot of the time out of the fight. And in a situation like this, where the spot you're trying to hit, this choke here, is so disconnected from where the fight's starting, it's very, very hard to make this a valuable or like quote unquote the right play to do. Even if you're stuck behind shield here, shooting into the enemy Rhine shield, I would rather see you pushing in with your team, maintaining your pressure with the team. And that's for a couple of reasons. Like I said, it's a bit of a too long of a flank to find effective value on. If you were someone like, well, if you were anyone with verticality, you could be doing something like this. But if you were someone with more mobility, like Tracer, then you could be going over here. Someone with more gap closing ability. But as McCree specifically, I'd like to see with the team. And then another thing to tack on top of this is that we started this fight with advantage, and we're still at advantage. We killed their Rhine, he got rezzed up, but we also killed their Zarya. So we have a numbers advantage here. And maybe not super applicable to Temple of Anubis since we have such a strong defender's advantage. But typically, the best way to maintain this numbers advantage in order to like get the most value out of them being down a man is going to be by staying together and exposing as little as possible. So you going back here, it's not really exposing anything. And this isn't like a great example of this concept. But say, for example, if their soldier was staying back here and then you end up taking a duel with the soldier, you might be favored, but it's possible you lose that duel. Or if they have a widow, it's maybe more possible you lose that duel. And losing that duel is how you sort of turn things back in the enemy's favor. So it's more important to compound your resources together, stay with your tank line in this instance, than it is to try and find even more value. Because like this is an aggressive play. If it works out, you're going to be doing a ton of damage when they start backing out. But it's a little bit of unnecessary risk because we already have an advantage that we could just compound upon. Does that make sense?
Total sense.
So if we were in
Yeah,
more of
that's
a
great.
neutral fight and we were playing like 6v6 and they're trying to take here, this is such an awkward map to use as an example, to be honest, because the chokes are so disconnected. But say, for example, they were pushing this way instead, and your tanks, for some reason, go to match them here, you could look for a small flank over here to try and find an advantage. But if you already found an advantage over here, there's no reason to force this flank because it's opening you up to additional sightlines, additional risks.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So yeah, flanking typically used as an opportunity to find an advantage, but not necessary when you already have the advantage in the team fight. But it looks like we'll be cleaning this up either way. Big 3-man flash, easy kills. And now,
and this is when I hear the
mystery of the sim turrets.
Yeah, I'm typing there's a sim somewhere back here.
Yeah.
This is a whole, like, this is rough.
It's just,
I see, like, the red banner up there, and I thought it was
yeah.
sim.
Oh, okay. So again,
like, maybe I'll go up here.
It's a little bit dangerous. So your timing is a little bit awkward because we had a bit of downtime for us to look for the sim. Like we saw us looking around. Maybe she's up here. Maybe she's back here as our Widow's getting around. But now that the team fight's quote unquote starting, now that the front lines are matching each other, this is where your attention needs to be with the team. And again, it's fine to look for a short flank in these instances to try and create an advantage, but taking yourself this far away from the team is going to mean that your team is now at disadvantage. And as you see, like, your Widowmaker's also kind of got this. I could see her, like, looking behind for the sim, that kind of thing. We're essentially taking, once this Ana catches up, we're essentially taking a 6v4 since our attention is split from our DPS members. And
yeah, this is terrible play on my part. I totally feel that. Like, it gets worse. It gets worse.
Oh boy.
I'm completely out of this fight. Like, I'm not helping my team at all. Like, I think part of it too is just not trusting my team enough. Like, I feel like, okay, my tanks are pushing in, they're gonna get rolled over, so I'm gonna flank and help them. Oh,
Gotcha.
There's a sim behind, I don't think the other DPS is gonna get her, so I'm gonna go do it. So I think that's part of the problem too, is I need to trust my team more.
I think, and I mean, to be honest, that's a valid concern at lower ranks where it's very hard to predict how well your team is going to perform or even like what they're going to do in the middle of the team fight. And I'm sure they're probably thinking the same thing. Like, why is my McCree not with me? Why is my McCree flanking? Like, it's hard to know what's going on inside their brains, right? And a lot of people view this game in very different ways. It's not until you start hitting like higher ranks that people start understanding a better concept of map geometry and meta compositions and stuff like that. Instead of, I mean, sometimes you should trust your team, absolutely. But if you feel like you can't trust your team, at the very least, you should be using them to your advantage. And what I mean by that is basically anytime your Reinhardt and your Zarya are fighting, this is attention that's going on to them that won't be onto you. Anytime Rein's swinging on your Rein, we're not swinging on you. Anytime Zarya's beaming down your Rein, she's not beaming down you. Same goes for their DPS, obviously. So use that to your advantage to just free fire, basically. You can stand right here, probably not even move for a few seconds and not take any shots. You can even try and be a little aggressive and bait the Rein to like start swinging on your Rein, then you hit him with a flashbang and right click him, and then we have an advantage and then we can push on that. So even if you don't trust your team to win like this frontline fight, you should be using the fact that they are fighting to your advantage. And like I said, sometimes that'll look like, again, this is a terrible map for an example, but it can look like a small flank if their attention goes this way and you can hit their backline, or it'll just look like baiting their aggression onto your tank so that you can just free fire. Have as much uptime as possible as McCree. You want to put out as many bullets as you can. Nice shots.
Me looking for this one again.
Oh, you got the reticle on her. You see where she is now, at least. Ooh.
This is always so scary when this thing is like staring at you and you're missing all your
nice
shots.
Shot. So a couple things about this duel in particular that we'll touch on briefly. If you are going to be going for this flashbang and you're just trying to net the kill, I would like to have seen a roll into the sim, immediate flashbang, right click, she's dead. It's not as skillful looking, it's not as flashy, but it secures the kill and that's what really matters. And then once we see we haven't secured the kill, now I'd like to see you rolling backwards and just outranging her. This is a deceptively long looking beam. It's not actually this long. I don't know why the graphic is this long. It cuts off probably around here where she can actually hit you. So just roll backwards, your gun shoots farther than her gun, and use that to your advantage. I would say the same if you were dueling someone like a Reinhardt or a Reaper, right? Or a Zarya even.
Yeah, actually this
Use your
roll is
range to your
terrible.
advantage.
I roll into her little area, her turret. That's rough too.
Thank you.
Overall, not too bad right now. Our mistakes have been covered for, so we're holding steady. Enemy Ryan's going this way now.
Little help here.
This is when
I like the in-game voice line calling for help. So again,
Yeah.
it's good that you want to pressure this Rhine out. That's the correct choice because this is a very easy to capitalize on rotation, right? They're walking through your line of sight this whole way. But your attention would be much better used on enemy backline members who are doing the same rotation. There's no reason. So if we think of the enemy as this one big arrow, you want your attention to be on the tail of the arrow as much as possible. And when they're coming in like a big conga line like they are right now, it's very easy to hit that exposed tail end. It's up to your Rhine to match their Rhine and slow him down so that this stays exposed for longer, but it's not up to you to try and break through the tip of the spear, so to speak. That's where you don't have an advantage. So use your range, use your defensive positioning. Again, like staying right here, it's very easy to dodge shots. You have good LOS to your healers. You have a Rhine shield in front of you since he's not matching the Rhine. You could easily just take a few shots, maybe get a kill on the Mercy, maybe kill this soldier. He's got Discord over on him. And even if you don't get kills, you'll more than likely force resources out of them. You'll force Reaper to Wraith. You'll force Zarya to use bubbles. You'll force Rhine to back up and shield his team. Those kind of things, which are also forms of value. So this might be part of your tank brain coming online where you see Reinhardt moving and you think that's where the fight's going to happen. But they're just as disconnected as we are right now. As you can see, our Rhine's not matching their Rhine, but their Rhine's not really doing anything for his team either. And this is an opportunity for you to almost carry this fight by getting a pick on someone more valuable. But we're backing up now. And again, like, look how long they're staying in this open space. This is so bad by them, right? There's no way they want to maintain this space. There's no way they're going to win a duel shooting up at you. And you just get a free kill on the soldier. You haven't taken a single point of damage. And you're very comfy here. Another easy kill. And this is a perfect example of a short flank, actually. We finally found a good example. Your Rhines matching in this room makes it very easy for you to disconnect from this frontline fight. Again, if they're hitting your Rhine, they shouldn't be able to hit you. You don't want to be on top of your Rhine taking swings, taking Zarya beams in the face. You want to disconnect a little bit, and then when you see opportunities, down here, down on the Soldier Mercy, down on the backline, you take a short flank, and you use the fact that Rhine is taking a ton of aggression. Sure, he's probably going to die right now, but you use that fact to your advantage by getting this flank off. This is a really good play. Yeah, you just got 3 kills. Your Ana went down, your Rhine is barely alive. Ooh. Oh,
I think
again.
that lost the fight. If I would have just not, I do that too much. Instead of like fan the hammer, I just try to go for the headshots, and it's my downfall a lot of the time.
So yeah, this is exactly the same situation as the sim duel back here, right? One, we're starting at a good range, and we got 2 headshots off. Or a headshot and a body shot. Do we hit another headshot? I thought I heard 2. Maybe I was wrong. So from right here, you saw her use her self bubble. You know there's no bubble to outplay with your flashbang, but you're doing the 2 things wrong, similar to the sim kill. You're closing the distance on a hero that benefits in short range more than you do, instead of even just staying back here. You could just sit still, and she wouldn't be able to hit you even if she tried. She would be forced to walk at you, which she probably doesn't want to do, because then she's pulling away more from her team. She's staying more in your line of sight for longer than she wants to be. She wants to use this natural cover to sort of hide from your shots as much as she can. And then, once you do decide to commit, I'd like to see you closing the gap with your roll, throwing the flashbang, getting the right click off. Another benefit of using the roll to close the distance in a situation like this is it reloads your gun, obviously, and you get a full right click. Right now you're at 3 bullets. If you try to just flashbang right click, you're only going to get 3 bullets off. So instead, close the distance with the roll. It makes it harder for them to react. They can't... Zarya's got no roll button in her kit. She can't get away from that sort of... Even though it's a small movement ability, she can't get away from that movement ability. And it guarantees you net this kill. Again, even if you wanted to right click now, you're only on 2 bullets. You do the best you can with those 2 bullets. But then we're forced to back out and we'd lose the trade. So I think pretty obvious things to fix right now are just no reason to commit in close quarters unless you are going to flash fan the hammer. If you are going to flash fan the hammer, make sure you are doing it at a time that suits you. And this was a perfect time, a perfect opportunity to capitalize on the fact that she had no bubble. She was alone from the rest of the team. There was no one that could punish you from just using all your cooldowns right here. and then you get that free kill, you still maintain good positioning. There's no one else up here. Maybe the Reaper could try to TP on you, but that's about it. That can really threaten you, and then it's a very easy fight to stabilize.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
I really think a little bit is Tracer and tank brain sticking out right now. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's something like the way you're sort of like menacingly walking at the Zarya. That reminds me of like a Reinhardt who would just be like flashing his shield and then getting in swing range. But you've got a gun. There's no more need to get in melee range. And when you do decide to get in melee range, make sure it's very purposeful and you have a good sort of order of operations when you are making that play. Close the distance, guarantee the flash, guarantee the kill. I didn't talk too much about your Deadeye play earlier because it was all right. It didn't really do too much, but it stalled out for time and guaranteed some space and stuff like that. It's not like a Grav. It's not like a Nano Dragon Blade. It's not a huge game-changing ultimate a lot of the time. But I'm curious what you think are some of the best use cases for your Deadeye. What situation do you want to use it in, basically?
Yeah, I tend to use it in a few different places. I mean, the primary is when I feel like there's going to be a lot of pressure coming into us and I want to have some space, especially if it feels like our tanks are not in a real good place right now. So, like, if I feel there's a lot of pressure, I'll just pop it and try to see if there's some like one kill I can get.
Yeah, I think that's a good example of what we saw on First Point when you were back here. There's probably a lot of pressure coming through this choke. Pop Deadeye, at the very least, and maybe it just denies their push for 6 seconds or so. And that's not amazing value, but it's something. Continue.
I also usually see if I can get a real easy kill, especially at the start of a fight, I'll sometimes just pop it to get the kill. I especially like doing that with Pharahs and Mercies. Because that can like force them to like go down and sometimes even just die completely, which takes down their whole push. Sure. So yeah, sometimes really early just to pick off one person.
Gotcha. So yeah, those are probably the best situations you'll ever find to use Deadeye. And what I want to make sure is just like the flash, the fan, the hammer kills, we're going through a checklist of what's going to make those plays work. So the first one's a little more obvious. All you need to do is make sure that you're in a relatively safe position and you have good LOS to where you're expecting a lot of pressure, right? So standing back here, hitting here on First Point, standing back on the bridge, hitting that choke on First Point. Very easy examples. And this is usually the case when you're up against a Reinhardt-based team. If they're all planning to stand behind the shield, they're going to have a very hard time dealing with 6 fully charged Deadeye shots, right? So we use that to stall out the fight. We'll call this a fight zone. And this is usually around chokes, around corners, basically not punishing overextension, but some sort of commitment. So we wouldn't want to do it if they're still on their side of the choke, for example. If they're still just waiting to push in, you want to wait for them to start moving forward, what we call a transition period, basically. When they're trying to close the distance on us, when they're trying to get into the fight, we just stop that before it even starts. And then the second case we talked about, trying to catch people off guard. The biggest thing I want you to be looking for is obviously positioning is a very easy thing to punish. If there's a Pharah, I mean, again, not a great, let's just go over here for argument's sake. If there's a Pharah over here, she's nowhere near natural cover. She's nowhere near a wall that she can E away from. Very easy Deadeye. She has no choice but to just fall to the ground using gravity. And hopefully by then you can charge enough of the shot to get the kill. The other thing outside of positioning we want to be looking for is cooldown usage. And the biggest ones you'll be looking for in this composition are going to be things like Reaper's Wraith and Zarya's Bubbles. For someone like Pharah, it's going to be whenever she uses her shift, knowing that she won't have that reposition tool if she uses her E, Tracer if she uses Recall, Genji if he uses Reflect and Dash, those kind of things. So not just focused on when someone's positioned aggressively, but if they've used their cooldowns to warrant that position. So for example, Reaper right here, he might be overexposed, but if you start Deadeyeing him and he just wraiths away, there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah, and I think that's what happens, actually. I think.
Oh
no,
we actually take a Helix rocket to the dome.
Oh, man.
So let's look at this top now. How did I'm guessing you felt safe from this LOS because of your tanks being in the way?
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah,
I don't
your
know,
Ryan goes for a
it's a little
fire strike
weird.
and a Helix rocket sneaks through. This won't happen often. But something to guarantee this will never happen is being very mindful of your positioning in regards to natural cover and in regards to multiple sightlines. So if you turn to deal with this sightline, you no longer have information about this sightline. Same thing goes where if you're constantly shooting in this sightline and you had no information about this Reaper and you just never turn to him, he's just going to walk at you and click your head, right? So anytime you're stuck between two sightlines like this and you decide to commit to one, both that can just mean like looking at one, make sure you are doing everything in terms of movement and using natural cover to avoid committing to the other one. So if you're turning for this Reaper, maybe you move behind this pillar and play right here so that nothing can come through. Even though you've got a Rein, like we said, we can't always trust our teammates. So we need to play despite them properly, not according to what we think they should be doing or what we're expecting them to do. Same thing goes where if we want to ignore this Reaper and push forward, maybe we want to push off the point, get behind this pillar so that Reaper has a longer time to get to you, or it maybe even means just constantly walking forward to catch up with your Rein to keep the distance away from the Reaper. You need to make sure that even if you are committing in one direction, you can't ignore what's happening around you in other directions. And this is most relevant when dealing with flankers, like this Reaper who made this TP play. And you landed the flash. You had all the tools in your kit to make this play work, but we weren't thinking about the cover and the other sideline. And then just an errant Helix rocket. But again, this could be anything. This could be the Zarya's grab or a shatter coming through, or I don't know, a sleep dart coming through. That just completely shuts down your aggression. Hanzo arrow, exactly.
Yeah.
So many things can go wrong if we're not paying attention, so we need to make sure that we're using as much natural cover, we're using the map to our advantage whenever it's appropriate. Oh, this is looking like a bit of a snowball.
Yeah.
3% off trance, so unlucky. Ooh.
That was just a YOLO ult at that point.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, not much you could have done. The only way you get value from this high noon is if there's something else they need to look at, and everything else was dead. So there was nothing else for them to look at. But yeah, just like that Reaper flank worked because it took your attention away from this sightline, one of the other things that make high noon plays work is like we talked about when there's pressure. But that means pressure from the enemy team as well as your team, because if they're not feeling pressure themselves, they're just going to ignore your high noon or straight up kill you, like we saw.
Yep.
But yeah, you didn't have many options from that position, so no worries. Any questions about anything we've talked about so far? Anything you want clarified, stuff like that?
No, actually, just even the conversation about the Zarya and thinking about the value that I can get from afar that she can't get. That was actually very, very insightful, very helpful. Because I watched this before and I was like, I don't even know what I could have done to change this. And what you said makes a ton of sense.
Awesome. Good to hear. So yeah, anytime you are playing basically any DPS hero, and anytime, number one is especially when you're taking duels, you need to think about not only what works best for you, like you wanted to close the distance, you wanted to land the flash and guarantee that kill, but Zarya is very happy having you close the distance, right? She's very happy to have you walk into her beam range and stuff like that. So don't think too hard about what is best for you on paper. Think what makes sense the most in terms of context of the map geometry, chokes, flanks, stuff like that, but also the hero matchups. If you're going up against someone like a Widowmaker, maybe you do want to close the distance and make her aim a lot harder to land. But if you're going up against a Sim or a Zarya, use that range advantage as much as possible. And when you start reaching higher levels of play and you start thinking more about macro stuff, not just individual stuff, this applies at a team level as well. If we're a team playing Ryan, Zarya, May, McCree, and we're playing versus Soldier Sim, I guess, technically we're better at short range. We can use things like mace, walls, and freeze. We can use things like flashbang. So as a team, we'll be trying to close the distance more often, and they'll be trying to maintain range for Soldier to land shots, for Ana to land nades and sleeps and stuff like that. But obviously for now, focus on your individual mechanics and your individual decision making.
Yep. I do think this is going to be a real painful 10 seconds.
Oh boy. Oh, Ryan is not pushing forward. Or I guess he is technically pushing forward.
Went left and right and left.
Do you communicate much in game? I'm seeing you stop to type. I'm hearing your in-game voice lines. But do you communicate over mic much in game?
I do not. I rarely communicate over mic.
Gotcha.
Actually,
So,
I never do.
I don't know if this is something you're strictly against, but even the smallest amount of communication, like when we're in the spawn room, hey, first fight, let's go left to take the mega room. Simple things like that can potentially avoid situations like this.
Yeah.
But again, if you are not in a position where you want to be communicating with your team, if you are not in a position where you can trust, if they're not in voice, if they're just straight up not listening to you, if they have you blocked or whatever, you need to find reasons to use what they are doing and sort of win despite their mistakes, and not only be able to play with them kind of thing. So yes, ideally, we would have our Ryan shield here to help us break through this choke. But in another situation, or I guess in the current situation, we can be using all this attention that Ryan is getting to maybe find an aggressive flank and maybe catch a soldier off guard. Because he's thinking, hey, look where their tanks are. And remember, this happened to us the very same way. We saw where their Reinhardt was going, and we tried to match him. And look what they're trying to do right now. Even their soldier, I think, is thinking about shooting at their Rhine right now. Or maybe not. But
I get I get what you're saying.
We have an opportunity to find an advantage here, even though we're not playing around our Rhine. We're playing around him in a way that sort of slightly benefits us. This is by no means a team play, but we are reacting to what this solo queue Rhine is doing by making another aggressive play ourselves. Ooh, I think we might have had it. Okay. Ooh!
I have
So
a
close.
real tough time hitting soldier. I don't know why. Like, I have an easier time killing widows than soldiers. Like, substantially easier time.
You know what I think would have won you this duel?
What?
Saving your roll.
Push forward.
Interesting.
I'm not sure why we decided to roll there, but
Yeah,
if
why
we
would I do
if we take the extra 1 second to round this corner, we see soldier like this, and then we roll to close the distance, flashbang, right click. He's dead. But now we're a little bit worried he's outside flashbang range. I think
there was that moment right there when he was on the stairs.
Exactly. So I think at this moment he technically was in flashbang range, but he was like close to the corner. He might have just dipped around it by the time you flashbang him. So I understand wanting to hold it here. But then yeah, even here, if we had roll through the door, we'd be able to get closer and make sure all 6 bullets land right inside him. I think like 1 or 2 missed there, and we're not able to get the kill. He does get bubbled, and he was getting healed, obviously, so it's not an easy kill by any means, but it was definitely possible. Ooh, nice shots. Let's go. We are stuck with tank brain. Why are you playing for this Zarya? You're trying to like Reinhardt shield this Zarya in right now when we have the high ground.
Yep.
A little bit of tank brain going on, a little bit of support brain maybe. You're trying to play around your team when your team is not doing you any favors, as we saw. Your Rhine's just kind of running it down. Your Zarya's, I guess, trying to support the Rhine, if anything. And because of that, you'd got a decent amount of space. And then we gave it all up to limit our range of view and to try and play more for our Zarya. And again, we abandoned our Mei in favor of our Zarya in a worse position. All these kind of things, all these like slight positional errors mean that it's limiting our reach slowly and slowly to the point where we have no more options.
Yep. Made a bad situation worse by my positioning.
It's this is a unique piece of advice I get to give. You should be playing a lot greedier as a DPS. Not usually the case for a lot of people, but you should be thinking solely for yourself in a match like this. If your Rhine's just going to run it down, use that as much as you can. Obviously, it's not going to look the same as a coordinated team play where you're walking behind shield. Now we're trying to make this team play work, even though... Nice counter flash. Oh, he's almost dead. Okay. This was a good example of them being out of position, the Zarya, and with no cooldowns. Obviously, we also net the kill on the Rhine because he's got no options but to hold his shield up, and he ends up going down. Oh! And we're frontlining again.
Kind of like, yeah, this feels like if I was communicating in chat, like if I was saying, hey, let's push forwards, we can both get the turrets. Because I think the Zarya felt afraid of the turrets too.
Right.
So I kind of expected her to be hitting them again because like it feels like the 200 SR between what this game is and where I play in tank makes like a ton of difference. So I was just like expecting, oh yeah, she'll get the turrets, and then I was like, oh no, she's not getting the turrets.
Right. So yeah, again, if we can't trust our team, and to be honest, at this SR, I wouldn't start by defaulting to trusting your team. I would be waiting to let them prove themselves, in a manner of speaking. This is a play that requires a lot of team play, and this is a play you'll see at like pro level play where DPS will get ahead of the curve knowing that their team is ready to back them up. Unfortunately, as much as we think they're going to back you up, we don't know that for sure.
I did get
And
a
then, of course,
bubble.
yeah, you got something, but not enough to sort of warrant the amount of aggression
No.
we were looking for. So obviously, a safer play here is once we found. It's not a huge advantage, but once we did find the kill on the Rhine, I think we were at a decent state to just. We traded Rhine sort of, and then we almost got the kill on the Zarya. Basically, it's not a numbers advantage we're at right now, but I would say we are at a positional advantage. Do you know why I would say that?
So my assumption would be that we can always back up and take a like regroup and take that high ground up there.
Yes.
Like, whereas they have nothing really that they can't really stabilize anywhere. Like they can only hide really without their shield.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The term I like to use is we've corralled them. They're like a herd of sheep. They were controlling all this valuable space, these high grounds, but now they're all stuck around point. And as attackers, what we have as sort of an advantage inherently is that we don't have to fight if we don't want to. We don't need to force this fight, because if we force this fight right now, even if they didn't use the sim wall, this is like a neutral fight. No one's really at advantage. There's there's 5 people on the ground with no Reinhardt versus 5 people on the ground. And actually they're on us all, technically on the high ground. But yeah, both teams are equally equipped to sort of fight around this space. Being the attackers, we can take our time a little bit here. Sure, we'll sacrifice a few seconds on the time bank, but I'd say winning the fight is more important than trying to win a fight as quickly as possible, making sure we take the best fight rather than the first fight, to give ourselves more options. Even a shorter flank like this, going to flush out this Ana, again, corralling her onto the point, those kind of things are very, very good options for us. And I think there's a common misconception about how valuable the objective is on points like this, because in reality, the objective is probably the worst space you could ever have on this map. It's surrounded by you're in the valley of death, right? You're surrounded by all these high grounds who have very easy escape options away from the point, and you've got nowhere to go once you are on point. Unless you're someone with a ton of mobility, you can wall climb, you can blink around, you can dash up to the high ground, those kind of things. You can jump as Monkey up to the high grounds, which you can do none of these things as McCree. Fighting on point does not benefit you basically at all. And once we see that we can't get this kill on the Zarya, we get really close, but now at this point, she was outside of roll flashbang range, that kind of thing. We need to give a little bit more respect to the fact that we have no advantage here. We can get an advantage by using our options presented to us, but by staying here, by forcing a fight right away, we are not at advantage. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, this is unnecessary aggression, and I didn't even
Absolutely.
think about that either. Like, there's no reason to push right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I'm like, okay, let's go. We're up. Not even up. I felt like we were up, and yeah,
We're
that makes
roughly
so
even. Yeah. So yeah.
Not anymore though.
Yeah, not for long. A good way of thinking about this, and this is something that Jane loves to say on stream if you ever watch him, is that defenders get to choose where the fight happens. So, for example, if they're sitting up here, they're probably ready for a fight up here, or they're ready to drop on you if you fight here. They can decide where the fight happens based on where they start their positioning, but attackers get to decide when the fight happens, because there's nothing forcing you to hold W. Maybe we're getting a little greedy. Maybe saying you should be more greedy was a bit of a overeager statement, but we have the options in our hands about how we take our attack and when we take our attack. And again, as someone like McCree, someone who should be thinking a lot more selfishly, you don't need to take an immediate team fight here. You can play for what benefits you the most. In this case, I would say at least taking a position like this, which gives you good natural cover, gives you slight high ground advantage, covers you from things like this Ana in the back, covers you from being outside Sim and Zarya range. All these really good things that just let you stand still and shoot your gun, which is what you should be aiming for. But yeah. we saw the 100 HP Zarya and we saw our eyes turned red. We went full aggro. So yeah, these are types of plays that. So like, if you were playing Reinhardt in this match and you had a McCree who's landing shots like you are, and you push aggressively like that when we're quote unquote like in neutral, that can work for your team if it enables the McCree enough. But again, it's also not necessary even if you were playing a tank in this situation. It just feels really rushed. All right, we're moving as a 6. Let's go. We found a team play. Nice.
Dropped again. I don't know why.
So, dropping here, it's not as bad as the last time, but it's also unnecessary, like you're saying. You're not really sure why you're doing it. It almost looked a little bit accidental, to be honest.
I don't think it was.
Okay. But yeah, there's no reason not to use this space to your advantage. Again, this slight high ground, this slightly better natural cover, a better LOS to around the point rather than this one, are all things you should be looking to capitalize on. If you were playing someone like Soldier, this is a place that you would be like sprinting to the first opportunity you got. Or if you're playing Widow, you'd probably want to even like grapple up here if you're stuck on the low ground, because it gives you better line of sights, right? So again, just keep in mind that as McCree, you have very limited movement options, and anytime you do commit to giving up high ground, that's basically where you've committed to stay for the rest of this fight. Until we get like a break where we can reposition, or until one of the fights either won or lost and it's over and we can start thinking about the next one, this is where your position is for the remainder of this fight. We're wary of the sim turrets. Good.
Yeah, afraid.
Cool.
A lot of what you're saying is about being like more intentional, I think, about what my actions are.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's possible you're just autopiloting. Like, do you have any idea what you might have been thinking in the moment during this fall to get this angle? Or just a little bit on
Not
autopilot?
really.
Like, maybe this angle will be better?
Yeah, I think it's like ants swarming. Like, it feels like if we're kind of just like going different directions, it'll be more pressure on them. But it's also like I'm giving up a good position for. I also know there are sim turrets there, so it's not, I can't.
It really doesn't make sense.
Do anything, yeah.
And remember what I said on defense too. When we already have an advantage, we killed this Ryan. He even burned his Earth Shatter. He no longer has that, even if he somehow manages to come back into the fight. We have a huge advantage in this fight. We no longer need to put in a ton of work to try and create an advantage. We can compound our resources together. And even if we just say it's 6, we are now 6 versus their 5. And we could just walk at them and we will win. Assuming no big, huge plays from them on the enemy team, for example. And also, I highlighted the wrong Ryan. This is the one with no shatter. So again, the sort of short flank play like here would be good if, for example, their Rhine was still up and he was blocking all this damage and there was no way around this Rhine shield and you're stuck just shooting him and the enemy team's stuck shooting your Rhine. You can create an advantage by looking for a flank like this and maybe getting a quick pick off some of the backline members. Like maybe if this Mercy's playing this corner right here and you can't see her from up here because there's a Rhine shield in your way or there's natural cover in your way, you can roll down here, try and get a quick pick on the Mercy. At the very least, maybe you just stop her from healing the Rhine, and then your team pushes that Rhine out, and then you have better space. That's the advantage you're creating. But when the advantage has already been created, and again, the kill feed is our best friend for noticing these kinds of advantages, then we don't need to make this aggressive play happen. We can be aggressive with the team from here on out and find just as much value. But we're cleaning them up either way, so no harm done. Ooh. That's fine. She's dead. That's all that matters.
I also have to learn on the ground. Not
I was about to say, I guess as a general tip, when they are this close range and you do unfortunately manage to throw the flashbang just past her. Wait, where did the animation go? Anyway, I think it exploded like right here. And because she was moving forward, she just dipped out of it. Just hit their feet with it. This is a good habit to get against people like Genji, especially too, where, for example, from your POV, going back to when this Ana drops, there's a Genji like right on top of you like this, and you know he still has Reflect available. Flashbanging like 1, so it hits the ground before it hits his hitbox is really, really good, and it guarantees that the AoE effect of the flashbang will hit him. Same thing goes for, what's another good example? People like, what am I trying to say? I was thinking in my head if you're using Ananade for the same reason, but now I'm trying to think of another correlation to flashbang. But I'm sure you know if you're playing Ana, you want to hit the ground with the nade, not the Genji, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Just make sure the AoE hits more than the hitbox of the thing itself. Yeah, I don't know where the animation of your flashbang went. It just disappeared into the void. Alright, fast forward a little bit here. Let's see if we can snowball this into a win.
I'm on fire. Much obliged. Thank you.
Oof. Yeah, these sim turrets are annoying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alright, Ryan's clearing some space. Okay, good. So, before we even look at this next fight, I just want to highlight again, this would be an opportunity where you might want to look for a short flank in order to create space. So if you can't walk through these sim turrets, and your tanks are even having a hard time clearing the space, maybe you walk over here and take this angle. This is still really safe. You still have a short distance to close to either get back to your team, if they're pushing a main, or get back into safety, and just get away from the enemy team where no one can shoot you. And maybe you get some poke off that, for example, if the enemy Rhine is standing up here and trying to match your Rhine, you can shoot around his shield, shoot into backline members on point, shoot if there's someone up here, maybe even just shoot the sim turrets to let your team in. Those kind of things. This is how you create advantages, no matter how small. You create them by finding a little bit of an off angle while still remaining in safe enough position to fall back to your team so you're not just overextending yourself.
Cool.
But yeah, obviously playing with your Rhine is also, like we mentioned, we have a better short range composition with the Mei. Being able to use stuff like Mei Wall to isolate members is really good. So playing as a 6 stack here will actually benefit you guys in the long run, assuming we can get good value out of our cooldowns. So it's not necessary to make those small flanks to find engages, or to find advantages, sorry. But it's in your tool belt, so to speak. Nice. We'll get him.
Yeah, it rolled again without.
Ooh.
Just to go faster sometimes. It's not. Gotta be more intentional with those rolls.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, a big combo that you should be thinking of is just roll, flashbang, fan the hammer. That's full use of your kit, and often will guarantee a kill if someone is overextended like that soldier. Other thing I wanted to point out here is, why did we push out? Look where we died when we could have had this position. Again, we're thinking too hard about killing our target, and you get the flashbang on the sim. Unfortunately, she's got a ton of healing coming through between the healing station and the Ana pocketing her, so we don't net that kill. But even if we did net that kill, by positioning out here, you're basically guaranteeing you're going to be trading for it. You're going to be dying, even if you did kill her. So just to go back, again, things we could have cleaned up. This Deadeye was nice. We got the kill on the Mercy. We almost got the kill on the sim. Ideally, we have flashbang here, but yeah, waiting to peek inside here and then rolling maybe right here to close the distance. But in all honesty, he might have just gotten away anyway because he does have more mobility than you. But from right here, flashbang the sim, but you don't need to walk out. You could do all this damage from right here.
Yep.
And we're opening, I mean, technically we're opening ourselves up to 2 angles now too because of the sim turrets. And it's just, even if we didn't know about that sim turrets, which, I mean, I didn't going into that fight, obviously, but we didn't need to overexpose ourselves there. And I guess this, if we consider this like a short flank, it's good here because we still have an easy fallback location. If they try to focus us, we're inside a wall now. If they try to turn and focus you, you can escape quickly, and it's taking their attention away from the rest of your team, which means more space for your team. But also, it just means that like you can just be so much safer without exposing anything. By playing even a step out of this cover, it means your flank is, now, even if you fall back, you're falling back to here instead of here, which is a lot more exposed, and you're in front of where your team is fighting. There's just a lot of little pieces of this puzzle that aren't quite lining up.
Oh, I think more patience too. Feels kind of like tank brain again. Like,
you're trying to frontline a little bit too much, trying to find that initial advantage. And remember, you have range on your side. You have a gun that shoots pretty far. And you can use that to find aggression rather than trying to frontline aggress. So like I mentioned, a short flank over here is just as an aggressive of a move as trying to like push in with your tanks quickly. And there was things preventing us from doing that, and it's going to be hard to find value from doing that if there's a Rhine shield in our face. Like even if we had like Lucio, we're speeding this distance, there's no guarantee we're going to find any value as McCree in this situation, because there's Rhine shield, there's natural cover we need to get around, there's all these cooldowns that they have that they can use against us. So that's an aggressive move that might find value if you get a good flashbang off, if someone's positioned out of position, you can get some shots off. But this is equally aggressive, and it's safer for you. It's potentially more beneficial for your team. It outplays things like Rhine shield, and it gives you more options going into the fight, while still, like I said, remaining safe to be able to fall back to your team. So keep in mind that aggression doesn't need to look like a straight line, I guess is the lesson.
Group up here.
Your Mercy is going for that ult charge, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're about to see this example where we're all pushing in main and we're being aggressive, we're moving forward with the team, we're making a team play, but are you really finding much value as McCree? Okay, here we go. Here's a short flank. Okay, we get the kill. A bit aggressive, again.
Yeah, a little.
A teensy bit aggressive. Again, if you did this and look for value like right at this corner, maybe instead of on this Ana here, let's look from top down to see what kind of options we had. So obviously you saw the Ana, you saw blood, but was this necessary, and B, was this warranted? Is this going to guarantee the kill? I mean, technically, yes, you get the kill, but it was so close to not getting the kill. If they had resources like Zarya, if they had resources like Rhine Shield, and we saw he was like just too late to get there, this is a very difficult maneuver to make work. And the reason is because of how far you're going on this flank. Again, you are McCree, you're not Tracer, you're not Genji, you're not even Soldier or Hanzo, who have better movement abilities. Going from here to here is aggressive, but then going from here all the way to here is over aggressive. Does that make sense?
Yep, it does.
So yeah, again, things we want to look out for when we are creating this short flank, even when we have like a ton of forward pressure and we can usually be more aggressive than usual. That was a lot of usual. But we need to think of cover that works for us. We're not exposing ourselves to this line of sight by staying behind this wall, and we have a good fallback location. We can fall back at the very least to here with a roll, or even just backstepping, which gives us more natural cover, takes us away from where their attention is right now. And we have stuff like a Mega Pack we can fall back to, or even be in LOS of our team by being in a position like this. So it's a very all-in what you're doing right now. And like we're saying, you're getting the kill, but we're trading out for it. And sometimes this will be okay to trade out for a kill, but in this situation, it was definitely not necessary. It was not a required play for you to make this happen. We already had a pretty good advantage piling in with the trance and our frontline pushing in aggressively. It's not to say we're guaranteed winning this fight because of this or anything like that, but we didn't need to make an immediate pick happen in order to win this fight, basically. And on top of all that, something I'll introduce specific to 2CP, obviously, I'm sure you know how much the spawn advantage favors defenders here on second point.
Yeah.
So any trades you make, even if you're trading out for like the enemy Reinhardt, which would be a huge value pick, even killing the Ana, that's a huge value pick, or the Mercy when she's in Valk, these are huge value picks. It's still going to benefit them more just because they took one person down. And you'll see teams sometimes even swap to heroes like Doomfist or Tracer or Genji on defense second point specifically, and just try to trade out every single fight. Because if they kill someone, especially if they kill someone like this far forward, like over here, or even past this choke, I'm sure you've seen Doom players do some crazy stuff around here on Anubis.
Yeah.
If they die every time as a defender, they will be back so much sooner to the point than anyone that they trade out with. So forcing this trade on attack is basically a death sentence in a team environment. There's so many things that can go wrong once a death is had, and obviously being the one who is in control of this aggression, when you are in a game, you are the only person you can control, and you should be thinking about how you can have the most influence, not just the immediate influence of this pick. And so surviving during this fight, getting as many shots off over a longer period of time is going to be a lot more beneficial to you as well as to your team.
Yep.
Did
Makes
that
sense.
all make sense? It was a bit of a rant, but
No. It's fine. Like I said, I want that.
all right, awesome. Teams trading out back and forth. Oh, the pin from downtown. Okay, it looks like we might actually win this out. But are you happy winning this fight despite you trading, or would you rather have won a fight because of how well you played, kind of thing?
Yeah, no, I'm not happy with it. Also, I don't know if we did win this fight.
Oh, okay,
I'm gonna be
okay.
honest.
We won a tick. It is 2 CP. I like the switch to Tracer, by the way, to get back faster. Smart move. There's a couple things I could point out about your Tracer play, but I want to see how this fight turns out first.
I mean, this is also pretty rough.
Nice.
Play, at least from me.
Okay. I mean, it's
This is not
overtime,
a-
high tension situation. Only thing is I want to point out here. Let's go back a little bit. First thing I want to point out is target priority. So when you first get back to the fight, this is really good focus on the Doom. But then we're kind of stuck on tanks for a little bit, and we had two things that we're not doing. We're not focusing members that are higher value kills, and we're not focusing the same targets that our team is focusing, i.e. Discord targets. I would say the same thing to your Zarya. There's no purpose to trying to beam down this Rhine shield right now when you have a perfectly valuable target that's about to get frozen and is discorded by the Zen. This is a much easier kill for both you and Zarya. Would like to see that awareness come out. Again, he's still discorded right in your face. And now, with the wall going down, we do go towards the back line. A little bit of better crosshair control there. Like when someone's in grav and they're not looking at you, no reason to try and get fancy with your footwork and try and like dodge a bunch of attacks and stuff like that. Just put the crosshair over their head and hold mouse one kind of thing. Don't stand still, but you looked a little bit like, for lack of a better word, almost panicked in your crosshair movement here.
Yeah, I'm making it harder on myself.
Yeah. As we can see. And just like the AD strafing is just making it worse kind of thing. So yeah, obviously we get the kills. We end up winning this fight. And without trying to sound too mean, you did a decent amount of work here, but I think we won this fight not because of you, but just not despite you either. It's not like you were actively harming the team, but you weren't the deciding factor in this fight. I'll say that.
No. I mean, I think normally I would want to be near the doors here, like staying here.
Yeah. Spawn camping this Ana, baiting her
yeah.
cooldowns, using natural cover over here. But all that being said, we did win this fight, and we did get some good value. So not bad. Biggest thing by far is just pointing out that McCree aggression. That is the biggest situation we want to avoid, because again, that's the situation that stalls out our team. Maybe we get a tick off that, but we never win that team fight because of that pick. It took a ton of other extra things to come through, between the Rhine pin, between them splitting so much, between us getting good value out of Maywalls, that it was more your team carrying you than you carrying the team in this situation. And as a DPS player, we want to carry as hard as possible whenever it's appropriate. And a lot of doing that just means making calculated risks and making relatively safer plays that pan out in the long run without necessary immediate value. All right. I don't know if we'll have time to fully cover the overtime rounds, but I wanted to hand it off to you right now and see if there's any questions you wanted to bring up, any situations you want to talk about, any clarifications you might need.
No, everything so far has made a ton of sense. Definitely clarifies some of my confusion as to what was really going on in some of these fights. Everything sounds good. And I think what you said, like be more greedy, actually does make sense for half of my play. Because it feels like sometimes I'm just like I'm not doing the right things in some place, but it also like it feels like I overcompensate when it feels like I'm not doing enough.
Right. And I think it's important to make a quick clarification. Just going to highlight your worst play one more time. This is a greedy, aggressive play, but it's greedy in the sense that it needs to work or else you die. You want to be creating greedy plays that mean you are being selfish and you are, in a sense, baiting the enemy team to focus the rest of your team. So, for example, using this as an example one more time, this is a really good short flank because of how much attention's on your Rhine. And you're being greedy by not helping your Rhine and making something selfish work. But this turns into over-aggression very quickly, as we're seeing, by over-committing to this. And this is greedy because it's like, I might get this kill, but I'm not going to think about what happens after.
Yeah. I mean, if I had just backed up, I would have died and my team would have cleaned up real easy.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe
So,
I would even have died. So,
yeah, I mean, maybe even like if you play here and you try and flash right-click this soldier, and then you see the trance coming into point, maybe you even just get into the trance and you live.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
But yeah, so greedy can mean a lot of different things. For you specifically, it means you should be thinking more selfishly. And I think that's a better word to use instead of greedy, because I don't want that confusion to come up. So this was an over-aggressive, greedy play, but a selfish play would have been using all this attention on point and just making your position as aggressive as possible. Even playing somewhere safer like this would have been a good play. Maybe doing the tech, or you get up here even and baiting the fact that your team is taking all this aggression to take your time, setting up a really strong angle, might be valuable. Again, you probably wouldn't want to see that too often on someone like McCree. Like if you're Hanzo, you get up here for free. Not so much on McCree. But yeah, most important thing by far from your play is, what's the word I'm looking for? It's partially game sense and awareness, and it's partially just that decision-making tree. And there's a word to sum all that up, and I'm losing it right now. But basically making sure you're taking in as much information, both from your team and the enemy team, and then making the decision that makes the most sense for you in that context. You might have noticed I haven't talked about your mechanics basically at all, outside of like the roll flashbang duels and stuff like that, because I think your mechanics are fine. Your aim is good. Like I said, you're hitting heads a lot of the time. It's just about your decision-making process, putting yourself in the best position to actually land those shots, which is where you're going to see the most improvement.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense. I like it.
All right, man. I think that's a good place to leave things.